Hello, Central Illinois. I am Patrick Cunningham. Welcome to another edition of Sideline Stories here on the WMBD Plus app. I'm the WMBD TV Channel 31 weekend sports anchor. And also, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. This is being recorded on December 9th. This is my last episode. Before next Friday, I get on a plane back to my home state of Texas, where I'll be for a week. Kurt Pegler will have you the next 2 weeks on here. So whether you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, or any other holiday, really, hope you are having a very festive season. Got a lot to get to today. We're going to start with, of course, a fantastic, historic win for Illinois State football over North Dakota State, taking down the #1 seed and team that's dominated the FCS playoffs over the last, really, decade and a half. They've won 10 of the last 12 national championships. The Redbirds, a 23.5-point underdog, trailed by 2 touchdowns with 3 minutes to go, came out with the win, and they were welcomed back in style because that was kind of an early mid-afternoon game, so they were able to make it back to campus in time for a welcome back at CEFCU, and here is just a quick peek at that. I mean, how do you not love that? I mean, it just really put the whole country on notice. I mean, I was all over social media and Twitter and a whole bunch of sites that cover college football. This was a game that shocked the entire country, as well it should. I mean, you think of dominance in college football, you think, of course, of Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Michigan the last few years, LSU. But, like, in terms of FCS playoffs, it's really only been North Dakota State, and to be able to go into the Fargo Dome, by the way, they had not lost there. The Bison had not lost there at home in the playoffs in a decade almost, and the Redbirds pulled it off. You gotta love the underdogs, and this is why you play the game as well. We were able to sit down with Brock Spack and the head coach for Illinois State and just talk about what a historic upset that was, and just FYI, because of ESPN rules, we can't show you highlights of that game and also clip it for our website and post it on the WMBD Plus app. So the footage that we use to cover it up from the game will be from the first game, which was at Hancock Stadium back in October, so that we can post this episode to our website, ciproud.com. So there's no confusion, we unfortunately cannot show the game from North Dakota this past Saturday, but here he is. This is Coach Brock Spack on the upset of Illinois State beating North Dakota State.
Coach, did you imagine that 24 hours ago you would have knocked off the #1 team in the FCS and you would have came back out onto the home court to just tons of applause, tons of cheers? And
well, part of that, yes, and part of it, no. I didn't think we'd be in the floor, but that's great. Appreciate it. And appreciate our fans. And it was fun to high-five and hug all the basketball coaches and basketball players, too. It's pretty cool. And it was a pretty cool moment. But yeah, I did. I did see some of this happening. Hopefully it was happening. I just thought this team's just a little different. You know, they're very good on the road. They've been really resilient. They're tough mentally. They don't stay down. It's hard to keep them down. They bounce back very quickly. They respond really well to good and bad situations. They just have proven that all year, and I felt that there was something different about how we were preparing for the game, and this seemed this team was really locked in and ready to play.
And what was the catalyst to that surge in the final 3 minutes, and then capped off with the 2-point conversion to Scotty?
It's just I think they felt like they had played good enough to win this game, and they weren't going to let it slip away. Back in the early part of the season we played, I think the end of September, they pulled away the last 10 minutes, and that really bothered our players. And I heard several guys, never heard this here before, but I heard several guys say, well, we want these guys, we want to play them again in the playoffs. And because I think, we're going to beat them in the playoffs. And so I just think they wanted to put their money where their mouth is, and they felt like they can beat them, and they didn't want this game slipping away. Statistically, the game was really dominated by one team. But with some turnovers and some mistakes on our part made the game a little tighter, or they had a lead. But I think they believed that we could score enough points and we could stop them to win the game, and they were right.
Finding ways to win is definitely the key. But
Yep.
Was that decision to go for two, to try and take the lead rather than kicking the extra point to tie, was that a decision that you'd made last minute, or was that something?
No, I made it on Wednesday. I've been thinking about it all week. Because I felt that we've been in a lot of tight games with these guys, and it came down to a last possession. If we scored and an extra point would tie it, and we had to go to overtime, I just didn't think we would be successful in that scenario up there. So I thought we're gonna go for the win right away on one play for 3 yards, and told the staff that I think on Tuesday or Wednesday. I told the team that on Thursday. If we get in that situation now, so everybody was very calm, and they knew we were going for two, and they went out and executed. And it was just an incredible play.
Did you draw it up for Scotty specifically, or was it kind of just whoever's open?
Well, there's several options there. You always have a guy in the end zone on the end line, and you usually in a corner, and then one guy underneath. So you give the different levels. You give the quarterback some options, and so it was just kind of a very simple concept that a lot of people use in the red zone or in the goal line. So.
Last one here. You got a lot of young guys who it might get easy to dwell on this victory, but job's not done. You got the rest of the playoffs to get through. What's it going to take to keep going and focus on the next game?
Well, there's a lot of things we didn't do great in the game, and there's things we have to be better at, and we'll watch those tomorrow and lean on the things we're doing well and do those plays and those calls and those coverages and those calls on defense, and then our plays on offense. And our special teams have been big for us most of the season, and so that'll also play into these games as we get closer and closer to coming down to the end.
Appreciate Coach Speck for taking the time on Saturday night after getting honored at the men's basketball game for speaking with us. That interviewer, by the way, if you were unfamiliar with his voice, that was not me or Kurt Pegler. That was Harvey Newcomb. He is a junior at Bradley and a part-time weekend shooter for us, and he, just by the luck of the draw, lucked into that assignment, and he did a great job shooting it and has been a valuable asset for us on the weekends here for the last year and a half. So that's it for the first segment. Now coming up, we'll talk about a Central Illinois Hooper who is approaching an incredibly rare milestone, and we sit down with her coach as she counts down to 2,000 points. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Sideline Stories. I am Patrick Cunningham, weekend sports anchor of WMED 31 TV. All right, for our second segment here, we are going to talk about a Central Illinois Hooper that is just roughly a little more than 30 points away from one of the rarest achievements in high school basketball, and that would be Dalia DeJesus of the DMAC Chiefs. Dalia is a senior and been a very valuable player, not just to the Chiefs, but just an incredible player all across Central Illinois. She is coming up on that rare milestone, 2,000 points. It's an incredible achievement to get 1,000 points in high school. To get to 2,000, you got to obviously average more than 500 points across 4 years of basketball. And to average that, everyone knows you're going to score. Like if you get to 1,000, maybe your first year as a junior or something, there's not a lot of tape on you. You kind of come out of nowhere. Dalia has been scoring since she was a freshman. Her first year with the Chiefs as a freshman was my first year in Central Illinois. And DMAC girls were one of my first basketball games that Kurt Pegler sent me to after I moved here in 2022. And she stood out right away, just a very quiet confidence about her. And that's something else that stands out is that, you would think a lot of scorers who get to 2,000 points are very loud about it. She exudes a quiet confidence, let's say, and she's an incredible leader on the court for the Chiefs. I sat down with the Chiefs head coach, Joni Nightingale, as they played in Flanagan. This was on Monday night. We're recording this on Tuesday. Dalia put up, I believe, 23 points, which got her to about 35-ish points away from 2,000, and just talked about her time with DMAC, what makes Dahlia such a great player, and just really how they've been counting down to this milestone. And, of course, DMAC trying to get to state. They got moved down to 1A this year, and they've been stopped in the sectional title game the last 2 years by Peoria Notre Dame. That was in Class 2A when Notre Dame would go to state both of those years. And then the year before, they made it all the way to a super sectional, and that was after DMAC had not won even a regional in almost 40 years. And then in Dahlia's first year as a freshman, they made it to a super sectional. So without further ado, here is Joni Nightingale.
1,000 is a heck of a milestone. 2,000 incredibly rare. Just talk about her journey towards that.
I mean, as you said, incredibly rare, and she just is a once-in-a-lifetime kid. To break 1,000 points halfway through her sophomore year, we knew then that this kid is special. To do it so early on, to break 2,000 in her senior year has been an awesome experience for her.
Has she talked about it at all?
You know, here recently we've talked about it because we've been so close, and just we're looking at our timeline of, gosh, that'd be awesome if you could break that at home, but we haven't played at home yet. We're 6 weeks into the season, and so our first home game is tomorrow. She's still a fair distance apart, so I don't know that that's going to happen, but she knows it's on the horizon. She knows what a big deal it is, and so she's the last kid that's ever going to pad her own stats, but she knows that this is a big deal, and she's excited for it.
Is it one of those things where you've been talking about it so long that it's getting to the point where she's like, okay, can we just get this over with and get on to the rest of the season?
I think she's really just used to breaking records, and I know I don't say that casually, but it's been a little bit of a pressure as a coach to okay, what's the record on the horizon now? We had a conversation with her earlier in the season. She actually broke 1,000 rebounds in our first round of sectional last year, and there were so many things on our plate that it just didn't get mentioned or highlighted. And we know that she gets recognized in a lot of ways, but we're like, so you know what? We're going to recognize you when you break the career rebounds. So it is. There's always something on. She's free throw percentage for career and for season is something that she's always aiming for. Hitting these career milestones, well before her career is over. So there is always something.
Well, and just seeing her name just up and down that record board by the scoreboard in y'all's gym, has it still just sunk in yet how crazy that is? For one player just to dominate almost everything?
I know, and that's the thing too. We've had some really phenomenal athletes come through, and we still have phenomenal athletes around her. But just the fact that she plays on a great team and sets herself apart is really a tribute to the fact that she's a once-in-a-lifetime player.
I remember seeing her for the first time, my first year here, and when she was a freshman. You've known her for longer. When was the first moment that you were like, this kid's going to be special?
I mean, really, it was in her freshman year. And I say that because it was her mentality as a freshman. She was like no other freshman that I'd ever seen. She accepted her role like, I'm going to soak everything up from the upperclassmen. I'm going to listen to Addie and McKenna and take in everything that I can. And so it was, the respect factor was there, but she walked onto the court with a confidence that freshmen don't have. It was like she had all the experience in the world, and it was her first varsity game.
Her first year, DMAC hadn't won a regional title in almost 40 years. Y'all went to the super sectionals that year, and the last 2 years have run into, the gauntlet that is Peoria Notre Dame in the sectional title. So she's pushing y'all to deep playoff runs. Tell me how much she wants to make it to Seth Arena.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge goal for all our kids. Last year, I mean, we could just taste it. We were so close. And we feel like we've put ourselves in a position for the last few years. And I think the difference at the end of last year was we believed in ourselves and nobody else around felt like we could do that. But I do think that we earned the respect of people watching. And then so to couple that with, coming off a great year like that, but then also to move into Class 1A, we know that stakes are high, but if no time like the present, if we're gonna make something happen, the time is now.
She's incredibly competitive. Has she just talked about throughout the offseason or all just how badly she wants to be playing on that Redbird floor?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think everybody had a bit of a mourning period. Last year was tough as season ends because you go down that rabbit trail of coulda, woulda, shoulda. I think their saving grace is they left their best performance for that night. And so coming into this year, you start in the summer. You start looking ahead to your season ahead. You have goals for where you want to start your season, how you want to compete in those early tournaments, but you're always thinking about what that postseason looks like, because that is the most important season. And so really stacking days of putting together awesome practices, finding competitive games and playing those games and executing to the best of our ability to put ourselves in a position that we're ready to battle when it comes to the postseason. And they want it. They want it bad. They're hungry.
So DMAC's next game is later this week at home against Eureka. It will be on their home court. That is their home opener, which is crazy to say. That'll be on December 11th. First day of games was in mid-November, and they still hadn't played at home yet. You got all those tournaments and classics and non-conference games, but somehow they avoided a home game. But she might be able to do it on her home floor. She would need about 35 points, certainly within her range. Last year at Tremont, I think she put up somewhere around 55 points against the Turks, and her team only scored about 62, so she had about 90% of all of her team's points. I mean, that's just how good of a player she is. So we're going to take another quick break here. When we come back, we just talked about one of the most obvious stars in Central Illinois. I'm going to name off a couple of boys and girls players who so far to me are sliding a bit under the radar as we enter into about the second quarter of basketball season. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sideline Stories. I am Patrick Cunningham. Last bit here to conclude this episode. So we've talked about the ISU football upset. We've talked about Dalia DeJesus at DMAC getting close to 2,000 points. Now here's, to me anyway, a couple of basketball players across both boys and girls that are sliding a bit under the radar as we enter about the second quarter of the high school basketball season. So I've got a little compilation here. I'll try and keep up as I describe them with the rolling videos, but in case I can't, I do apologize, and we will talk about all of them here at some point in case I talk too slow during this list. So here we go. These are just some to me. We're going to start in Canton here. That right there was Savante Stokes. He is a transfer junior, about 6'2", 6'3" guard. He's just very explosive off the drive. He has great ball handles. Canton in a very tough Mid-Illini conference this year. He could really give them a boost. To small school basketball, first with Lexington and the Minutemen, Blaine Friedmansky. If you've been following Central Illinois boys basketball, he's not a new player, but I mean, just out there in Lexington, kind of away from the Blono area and very far east of Peoria, he can kind of slide under, but he's had a heck of a start to this season, as has that young man for Tri-Valley. That is Aiden Jensen. Hard to forget about him. Even the ISU Redbirds are looking at him. I believe he's 6'8", 6'9", but I mean, he could really lead Tri-Valley to a deep playoff run. Those two teams actually played each other last week. It was an incredible basketball game. Jansen really took over in the fourth quarter, scoring 15 of his 26 in about a 5-minute span in that fourth quarter. And they closed that game, I believe, on a 25-7 run over the last 10 minutes or so. And 3 of those 7 for Lexington came in the final about minute during some free throws. So really it was like a 25-3 run. It was just an incredible turnaround. Now going back to the girls basketball that we've seen, that's Anaya Gully right there for Dunlap. They've had a great win this past Saturday over Peoria Manual after losing to Pekin on Friday. Gully sank just 3 after 3 after 3. And just, I mean, obviously Haywood is going to get a bunch of attention from them, but Gully is a solid shooter as well. Now over to the other girls player that was on that compilation, and that is a freshman. It's the only freshman on my list here, and I actually did not see her until this past Monday night. Hayworth girls team, by the way, 7-1. I mean, they are off to a very quiet 7-1 or 8-1 start. Now, freshman number 11, she's only 5'4", but it's Aaliyah Riddle. Scored 16 points on Monday night in a win over Olympia. And obviously, in the Heart of Illinois Conference for the girls, DMAC with Dalia DeJesus, who we talked about in our last segment, they're going to be the favorites to win that conference. Eureka girls are also a solid team. Can't wait for those two to play this Thursday. But Hayworth, there she is right there, is Riddle. Hayworth could make some noise. They could pull off a couple of upsets and really compete for that conference title, and they host the conference tournament, obviously, around the turn of the calendar when you get about into January. So those are just some players that I thought kind of sliding under the radar, and we may do this a couple more times throughout basketball season. I mean, high school basketball season in Central Illinois is such a marathon, not just here but around the rest of the state. You really got to buckle down and enjoy it, because I mean, it goes from mid-November all the way to mid-March, last 4 months. It's a fun ride, but you got to kind of take a step back every now and then and really appreciate not just the highlight players that we show, night in and night out from the big schools and the small schools, but also some of those role players as well, because as you get into the playoffs, those are the players that are going to help push your team into the sectional semis, sectional title games, and maybe even a trip to the Elite Eight or even the Final Four. So can't wait to see what the rest of the season brings. Once again, speaking of seasons, happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone who tuned in. Kurt Pegler will have this show for the next 2 weeks, as next Friday I'm getting on a plane back to my home state of Texas, and it'll be my first time down there since July, so I can't wait to be back home. So from everyone here at WMBD, back to our viewers, have a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and we hope to see you back here on the WMBD Plus app. And you can also, of course, see our daily coverage of Central Illinois at our website, that's ciproud.com. Have a good day.